we can't shop our way out of global warming. It's it's just a different it's green consumerism. Like
Mhm.
electric cars are good. I mean, they're better, but we need infrastructure. We need public transit. How about no cars? You know, we can't just green up our current way of living. My name is Anne-Marie Bonneau. I write a blog called The Zero Waste Chef, and I've written a book of the same title. And I started down this road after reading about plastic pollution in the oceans. And I just wanted to get off of plastic, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Amazing. So do you develop recipes? Zero waste chef. That makes me think that you're a recipe developer, cook. Um, and is it just that, or do you go into other things, zero waste and zero waste living?
Yeah, I go into other things. So I do have a lot of recipes. When I first decided to kick the plastic, I had to figure out, how am I going to get vinegar? And, I might want a fizzy drink once in a while. So, and I had baked bread since my older daughter was a baby. But I had this inkling that I could do it without buying active dry yeast. So then I started making sourdough and I started fermenting all the things. And I also talk about, just how to shop for the food so that you don't bring home a lot of plastic. And um, I touch on things like our food system and let's see, a little bit on gardening. I'm a little bit obsessed with hugel culture.
Oh, what's hugel culture?
Oh, hugel culture is awesome. Not only do you get to say hugel culture all the time,
Yeah.
but so I have raised hugel culture beds, and basically you bury logs in the soil. And then as those decay, they're filled with water, and we're in a severe drought here in California. It's a little bit um, scary. So
Yeah.
as the wood decays, it releases that water, and the insects that break it down, they aerate the soil, and so the soil has eventually, it takes years, has all of these nutrients and water. And so we one of our cherry trees died, and now it's in hugelculture beds.
So you
So,
bury the logs underground or you create raised
Yeah,
beds?
yeah. Raised beds. If I had a huge yard, I would do a mound. If you Google
okay.
hugelculture, then you'll mostly see mounds. So they're these raised mounds, but you
Yeah.
kind of need more space. And with when you have the mounds, you don't have to bend over to plant. You just stand and you plant things in the mound. Yeah, yeah. It's
This is so cool,
pretty
Mom. Have
cool.
you heard of this?
Yes, in fact, we have one.
Yeah.
You know, Emma, you know that, she might not know this, but, like, way down at the bottom of that hill, when we cleared out all those logs, we made a hugelkultur down there.
Oh, super
Um,
cool.
but it's in
I've
our
never heard you say
case,
that word though.
yeah, it's a permaculture thing, and in our case, and, we need to do something about this, like, tweak the system a little bit, but it's kind of far away, so we tend not to use it. Also, it's pretty new, it's only a couple of years old, so it probably needs more time, for this stuff to decay, but, uh, we need to get into the practice or rhythm of actually of using it, it's so much easier to pluck your things from up closer to the house, so, one of the you know, one of the, joys of having, a we don't have a huge place, we only have 7 acres, but, that's a
Oh,
lot. That's a lot to do
yeah,
whatever you want.
yeah. That's
And
nice. Wow.
so, if it's a couple 100 yards away to get down there, we tend to not use it. So anyway, we need to address that. But yeah, we have a great hugel culture and it's got all kinds of volunteer stuff growing out of it. It's really something to see. And we're feeding a lot of deer and rabbits and birds and stuff. So yeah, it's not going to waste by any means.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and our
Everything that
compost
grows.
piles, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I
Oh no, I
just
was gonna say compost. Yeah. You talk.
Oh,
You.
okay. Everything that grows in our yard stays in our yard. So try
Yeah.
not to put anything. Well, I don't put anything in the yard waste bin because it's kind of
Oh, you
crazy
mean
to do that, to just, send all of these nutrients away, send the leaves away, bag them. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
oh, yeah, absolutely. There was this very funny TikTok the other day, from an account called Black Forager. Did you see this, Emma?
Yeah.
Where she said,
We
"Public
read.
service announcement: Leave the leaves." It was really great.
Yeah. Yeah.
She goes, "Yeah, that's one of hu humans' more insane behaviors is raking leaves and having them hauled off in plastic bags." But anyway, that's a whole
Mm.
'nother thing. I wanna go back a little bit to your sort of transition into no plastic, and you said you read about plastic in the ocean. I'm wondering if there's a moment you can identify, or was it just sort of a series of revelations about that, or what was the tipping point for you where you said, "I'm gonna go plastic free"? I mean, that's a pretty big switch.
It was back in 2011. So I had been
Mhm.
reading about plastic pollution, and I think it was this catamaran that these environmentalists built out of plastic bottles and
Uh-huh.
other waste materials, and they sailed it from San Francisco to Australia to raise awareness of plastic pollution. So I think that's what caught my eye, and then I, found out that animals are feeding it to their young, and so the young starve to death because they're they feel full but they have no food, and it was
Mm.
just so horrifying. And it's for things we don't need. We don't need Coke,
Yeah.
and it just yeah, I was just so horrified. I told my older daughter, we have to get off of plastic. This is terrible. I don't want to be a part of it. I mean, because I'm alive, I am still a part of it, because until I have 7 acres, like
Yeah.
you, and grow everything myself, and grow flax to make linen and weave my fabric, and I'm going to participate in the supply chain, and so I may not bring anything home, any plastic home, but it's still out in the supply chain. But anyway, I'm doing what I can in my own life. And also, the the food I eat now tastes better. So I wouldn't be able to go back if I wanted to. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about, if you can remember, because that was over 10 years ago now, the transition, because it's sort of hard to do cold turkey.
Oh yeah, yeah, you can't.
Right. So did you, if you can remember from your personal experience, was it sort of in phases? What was like the hardest thing to let go of? You mentioned fizzy drinks. That's funny. Um, but yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that sort of the
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I didn't drink a lot of fizzy drinks before, but anyway, yeah, I learned how to ferment them. The hardest part for me was personal care products. I remember testing shampoo bars and homemade deodorants at the same time, and it was not pretty. That was hard. And toothpaste. So my daughter
Mhm.
made me deodorant, which I use to this day. It's great. And finally figured out the shampoo thing. And back then, so that was 2011, the shampoo bar selections weren't great. And now there are tons of them.
Mm,
It's so much more common. And it took months and months
yeah.
to transition, because we started in the spring. I remember that's when I was trying to figure out personal care products. And at Thanksgiving, I remember my older daughter was 16 and my younger daughter was 10, and Charlotte didn't my 10-year-old didn't really wasn't really interested or aware of what was happening, but Mary Catherine was really into it. I remember us saying, "Thanksgiving's coming up. How are we going to do Thanksgiving?" So it was months. It was a really long, because you can't do it overnight. It's impossible. I mean, our first shopping trip, when we decided to kick plastic, we went to the grocery store and we couldn't buy anything.
Yeah.
hardly anything. I mean, and I don't think I realized before that moment just how much plastic there is. And but anyway, and I told Mary Catherine that we wouldn't be able to do it. I said this is impossible. Can't buy anything in here. But then we just slowly made changes, and one of the big ones was to shop at the farmers market. We have them year round here. We're completely spoiled, and it's all unpackaged. It's all delicious food in open bins, and the farmers get a bigger portion of our dollar, and it's a lot more fun than going to a grocery store with the harsh fluorescent lighting.
Mm-hmm.
So that made a big difference. We sold some cloth produce bags, really simple, to take to the farmers market. And then we discovered that we could take our own containers to the stores with bulk bins. And I remember that was a big deal. We were so excited. We can just take our containers. We don't have to use the plastic bags. So those two things made a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, when you went to the store that first time and subsequently as well, there's so many things that, as you said, you can't get, and so you go to, like, okay, say you mentioned vinegar, a glass jar of vinegar. It still has the plastic cap. Did you just give yourself grace on that sort of thing, or
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and yeah, and and do you still handle it that way? Like, there's always there's this little narrow window where of things that you just really, really have no control of, and there's nothing to do about them, or have you found solutions to avoid even that? I know zero waste is to what extent is it actually zero waste? We know there's a whole continuum in there.
Right,
So,
right. I mean, it's a goal. The zero is a goal that
mhm,
you will probably never reach, but it sounds a lot
yeah,
better than, reducing my trash by half.
Less waste.
Yeah, yeah, just so I found solutions for most things. The one thing um that I haven't replaced is the little plastic seal on refillable glass bottles of milk
Mm,
cream.
yeah.
oh
So
yeah,
that's one thing. So I'd need a cow or a goat or sheep.
Or something that we have here is if there's local farms where you can do a milk
Mhm.
share. You can go like you go to the farmers market, you go get your milk out of the one that my mom's still a member of, and I did it last year. It was a bit of a drive though. Um so right, like there's trade-offs to everything. But you would bring your own jar and they had this big tank and you fill it up with the fresh milk.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
good. I bet you guys have something like that there.
Well, I probably have to
yeah,
drive pretty far. I've heard
Yeah.
of vending machines even.
What?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You take your glass bottle, and not around here. I think I read about them in Vancouver,
Okay.
um,
yeah.
or in and around Vancouver. Be around Vancouver, not in Vancouver. Anyway, you take your bottle and put it in. I don't know. Put some money in the machine, and then
Mhm.
it fills your bottle with milk.
Wow.
Do you is raw milk legal in California?
It
I don't even
is.
know. Oh, that's great. So you could get
Yeah.
it in the store, but obviously it's not going to be in a plastic free thing, probably.
Yeah.
Um,
Returnable glass bottles. Yeah, we just bought some at the farmers market on Sunday.
It's so good.
It's really good. Yep.
well, you might be able to find a cow share somewhere, and you know, granted, we have it's what is the carbon footprint of our driving 50 minutes to get it?
Mhm.
That is a thing, but that as we say so often in this discussion, there's trade-offs,
Right.
advantages, disadvantages, there's loopholes, there's you just give yourself a waiver on some things. You just have to balance it all out
Oh yeah.
somehow, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it, I could buy a pound of beef at the at the butcher counter in my metal tin. Um, but it's probably better to eat more legumes and beans. And
Yeah.
even if you have to buy them in plastic.
So, I wanna go back to that point you were making earlier, and you also write about this on your website. Even when we're zero waste ourselves, even if we figured out all the alternatives and the ways around it, we're participating and it's still out there. It's still like, oh, you give a couple examples,
Oh,
like,
well, eating in a restaurant.
yeah,
My older daughter has worked in a lot of kitchens while she was going to school. She worked in kitchens in the summer, and the amount of waste, everything's in plastic, and they store everything in single use plastic. Everything's comes in single use plastic, and they store things in single use plastic. Plastic wrap is on
Lots of
everything,
plastic wrap.
and
Mhm.
oh, and the food waste too. So the one place Maricat worked in, they got this jam in big giant glass jars, and they came uh, in cardboard boxes filled with styrofoam
Hmm.
to protect the glass. Yeah, so
yeah.
she would bring the jars home. So we have lots of really nice jars, but and you don't see that, but
Yeah, I think about a lot too if you go to a place like Costco or something where you see the bulk of and it's the packaging that the packages come in, like even if the package that you're purchasing yourself is reusable or recyclable, usually that whole pallet, right, is saran wrapped or
right.
it's just transport, it's everything. It's a lot of times a lot of the plastic wrap and the plastic stuff and the single use is like literal health codes. Like
Yeah.
it's law to do that stuff. At least here, and I wonder, and probably in California they're better about that. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember before COVID, um, we were back earlier in our journey, to live with less plastic. Um, we would take our to-go containers to takeout food places and ask them to use those. Sometimes they would, but more often than not, they would say that they couldn't do it because it was against the health code for them to have our container back behind the thing. Um, so when you're dealing with laws and health codes, it's really seems like a giant mountain to climb. So um, and with so many other examples of this where we have no control and we can have the best of intentions and short of becoming like uh
Mhm.
what yeah, exactly, or driving people nuts with the observations and pointing this out and that out, and I have to watch myself too about sounding preachy about it.
Mhm.
What do we do? And because you know as well as we do that once you start this, uh it really kinda hurts your feelings to see all these things all over the place that
Oh,
other people aren't even
yeah,
thinking
yeah, yeah.
about.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just keep doing my thing. I, maybe it's not doing anything. Maybe it's not helping anything. But I don't think that's true. But I feel better, and also
Yeah.
it's fun, and the food I
Mhm.
eat tastes better than it did
Mhm.
before. And I found also, well, so a friend of mine told me if I was preachy, I'd be unbearable. But I noticed that friends and family, they've made changes. They just have seen things I've done and have said, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to start doing
Mhm.
that."
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Lead by example, you know?
exactly, the more we can just sort of demonstrate and,
And
do as I
normalize.
do, not as I say.
Mhm.
Yeah, normalize it, exactly.
I'm
Um,
really curious, Anne Marie, this is something that I struggle with, going zero waste or not, but definitely if you are trying to do less waste, I imagine a good bit of, and just general healthy cooking, a good bit of planning and bulk and batch cooking goes into it. And I wonder how much, your weekly routine, daily cooking routine, how much of it is planned out, and what is kind of your rhythm like?
Well, I have kind of a loose plan on the weekend. So this weekend we went to the farmer's market. Actually, Mary Catherine went on Saturday morning because she had an appointment down by the farmer's market, and she bought a few things, and then we went on Sunday and did our main shopping. And we spent most of Sunday cooking so
Okay.
that during the week I don't have to. I
Okay.
made a giant vat of dal, a potato cauliflower dal. Yeah, it's really good.
Mm.
And Mary Catherine, she made bone broth, and then with the big pot of it, and then with that she made roasted honey nut squash soup. A
Mm.
big vat. She roasted the honey nut squash and cipollini onions. I think that's what they're called. Fancy onions, garlic, roasted garlic, and had rosemary in with the honey nut squash.
Mm.
Pureed that with the broth. It's amazing. The soup is incredible. It's
Mm.
so good. And what else did we make? I made some pastry. And so yesterday I quickly made a galette.
Mm.
We had leftovers, but we also had dessert. And we still have we still have lots of soup and lots of dal, and I still have some pastry, so tonight I'm going to make a quiche. And then, tomorrow night we'll have 3 leftover dishes to choose from. So
Awesome.
that's kind of how I do it. I look in the refrigerator first before
Okay.
I go shopping. So I look in the refrigerator and think, okay, what can I make with what I have on hand here? Instead of asking, oh, what do I feel like eating?
Mhm.
So
I
the
saw you had a post recently. Did you just finish up a challenge with your followers where it was like clean out
yeah,
your pantry or something? That's so great.
yeah, it was a. I thought before Thanksgiving would be a good time to reduce food waste
Mhm.
because you'll clear your
Yeah.
refrigerator and pantry out for all of the stuff you're going to buy, and
Mhm.
you'll make room for leftovers. So that was maybe day one. It was, yeah,
Okay.
cook something with what you have on hand before you go shopping. And if you do that, you will slash food waste and also probably packaging waste too, because some of that food probably came in packages.
Mhm.
And so if you eat that instead of instead of having it go bad and buying more food in more packages,
Mhm.
you'll slash all kinds of waste and you'll save a fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that sort of touches on the concept of convenience and how for a few decades now that has really driven our consumer habits. And I remember, I raised my children in the 90s, and um, the kind of mantra then was do whatever's convenient for you. You have to get through the day. You have to make it work. And that was kind of a boom time for a lot of these, I mean, they've been along for a while, but really these packaged foods and these things to put in the kids' lunches, the cheese sticks
Yes,
and the
Lunchables.
pu- yeah, Lunchables and the pudding and the plastic thing of pudding. And so, we were sort of led down the path of your your peace of mind or your sanity is worth this. This is what you need to do to help yourself get through the day. And I think that has certainly shifted a lot. I mean, people are certainly more aware now, and back then in the 90s, I don't think like we realized the extent of the amount of throwaway stuff that was going on, or it wasn't sinking in. But anyway, um, since you do this and you make a practice of it and you write about it and you blog about it, how can we sort of shift the modern day consumer into believing and knowing that lower or zero waste doesn't have to mean more work or more time. It doesn't have to mean, oh, this is less convenient, so I can't do it because my life is so crazy. How can we reframe that? Because that's not true. I don't think that's really true. In some cases it is. But anyway, can you speak to that?
Yeah, we need I think, a whole mind shift. So, sure, opening a can is a lot more convenient. The cans are lined with plastic though, but all of this stuff is highly processed food that's making us sick.
Yeah.
And now it's, our Western diet. It's now the global diet. It's just not. We can't go on like this. So yeah, I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, and she said sustainability has to be convenient, or no one's going to do it. And I thought, well, what's the alternative? There's we can't continue like this. So I mean, laws would really help if we
Mhm.
had laws banning, and there actually are several that went into effect last year in California. But there's one that companies will no longer be allowed to put the chasing arrows symbol on products that aren't actually recyclable or that won't be
Wow.
recycled, because people buy the stuff and they think, oh, I'll put this in the bin, and then it becomes something else and has zero
Mhm.
impact. And so it's just not true.
Misleading. Mhm.
Um, we need to learn some life skills. So schools taught things like cooking and gardening, just taught people how to take care of themselves. Then the kids can teach their parents. Because all of that cooking we did on the weekend, it was a lot of work on Sunday, but now I can kind of relax.
Mhm.
And I don't have to go through drive through or order something from DoorDash. I've got like this super healthy, delicious food
Mhm.
that tastes better than what I would order through DoorDash.
Yeah, and you know,
And the decisions that are made for you for the week, I find I get really tired. I get decision fatigue from every mealtime. Okay, what am I going to eat? If you have 2 or 3 things to pick from in your fridge, that's so much
Oh
better.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
hey, that's convenient. That's really
Yes,
convenient.
exactly.
It's so convenient. Yeah, the stuff's it's already. I just have to heat it up, and I also have. So with my doll last night, I also had some chopped fermented jalapenos that I had made in the spring, maybe summer. Anyway, really, really good, and preserved little bit of preserved lemon,
Mm.
and some
Mm.
cilantro chutney that I had frozen. I made a while ago. So I mean, it was so yummy.
Yeah. Also, I think there's, something that this is sort of an unformed thought, but the convenience of that can, um, we only see the can part and our experience with it, which feels convenient, but everything that went into that can is, like, really not convenient for
Right.
the people who worked to get it there, for the systems that have to be in place to do that, for the planet who has to support all the energy to make all of those things. Um, so it's a really hard conversation to have, but I think we have to keep having it because the way that the system is set up is that there are sectors of the population that rely on those cans and there's times when I rely on those cans,
Oh yeah.
but that's the problem is the system,
Oh,
right? It's
absolutely.
systemic and it's not the consumer's fault.
No, no.
Right.
So, I think that we just have to say that more.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, if people don't have a living wage, then they can't take care of themselves and their families.
Yeah.
Then they don't have time to cook. No, the whole system. I mean, we have this centralized food system with a handful of companies controlling everything and getting obscenely rich in the
Mhm.
meantime and making consumers sick. Uh,
Mhm.
and they decide what we eat and
Mhm.
who makes it. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
the whole system is
and and they decide how to talk about it as well. And
right.
so and for decades they've been talking about it as if these things are going to make your life easier. And apparently we have swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. We have, oh, yeah, it's so convenient to buy all these single use plastic foods to throw in the kids' lunch. Then I don't have to make lunch. Okay, so we in turn can be talking about things differently now. We can just point out here is the convenience of taking a couple hours on Sunday and with your farmers market food and having these foods ready to go in your refrigerator. This is really convenient, and also healthier and tastes better, and all the advantages to this. And and by the way, you're having to schlep to the store many times a week to pick up these items, these processed packaged items. That's not so convenient after all. I mean, there's a world in which that's, you're just running back and forth to the store a lot. And so it's just a matter of, I think, talking about it a lot, and doing by example, which you do so well, and
Well,
with
thanks.
Zero Waste Chef, um, and just helping people reframe this conversation that's kind of been fed to us from you
Right.
know, the powers that be. It's just not true.
It's
S-
not.
s-
And another thing, I think people think that they have to eat some elaborate meal every night for dinner,
Mhm.
and you don't. You just need to eat, make sure that what you do eat is just healthy, simple food.
It is, and it can be so simple. And this is what I'm talking about. We want to tell people this. Hey, if you got a squash at the farmer's market or at the store or wherever you got it, if you got a spaghetti squash, for instance, cut it in half, put it on a baking sheet, bake it, you know, slice some tomatoes on top, butter, onions, chives, or whatever, little Parmesan cheese. You've got a great meal with like zero effort. There's so many examples of things like
Oh
that
yeah,
that
that sounds good.
so
Mhm.
simple and no trash. And as we were saying earlier, once you start doing this, it just feels so good and it's so much fun. It's almost like a self challenge. And once you just get over that hump of like, oh, this is harder. I don't have time to do this. I've got kids. I have a job. All those things are true, and and we get it. It's just a matter of looking at it a little bit differently. I think. I don't know. Correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong, listeners. Let me have it if you
No, and I wanna
disagree.
recognize the creative energy that goes into it, because there is a certain amount of creative energy and, thought. Um, and I think that a lot of times it feels that we don't have that or we aren't capable of that. And I just want to remind anyone listening that that's not true. And if you feel that way, it is on purpose, because the way that our attention economy works now is it benefits a lot of other people for us to feel like we can't do anything ourselves and that
Oh
we
yeah,
can't
Mhm.
think about things ourselves and that we're not that creative. And it can feel, speaking from experience, it can literally feel insurmountable. Like someone listening might be like, the what you just described with the spaghetti squash mom, that
Mhm.
could be even too much. Like, okay, well, how do I think of the spaghetti squash? I need to pay someone to tell me exactly what to do step by step. That's how so many of us are. That's how I am. And so I just want to say that out loud too. I don't have the exact answer, except just remember that the reason you feel that way is because we are depleted creatively and energetically because of all the things that are asked of us all the time. And I think that's what that's why we have this podcast, and what it comes down to for us, slow living, is what can we do to get some of that back
Mhm.
so we can do this?
And what comes with that, um, is the in I will say intangible, but very real, um, feeling of trading out this feeling of dependence, lack of time, uh, being rushed for the realization that we can do things and it does feel good. It's very rewarding and really does not necessarily, it can take more time, but it doesn't have to. And that's why we just like to talk about these things a lot on here. And so shifting a little bit, I love the word you came up with and on your website, thneeds. You said you don't have thneeds. THNEEDS. Talk about thneeds. What are they?
Oh,
Give us
okay.
some examples.
Oh, all right. I wish I could take credit. That's from the Lorax. That's a Dr. Seuss
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
thing.
right. Right. Now that
Yeah,
you say
yeah,
that, I remember.
yeah,
Okay. Very good.
yeah. So the Onceler, he makes these thneeds, which are, well, his factory makes them out of the truffula trees, and they chop down all the truffula trees for their fluffy, I don't know what they are.
Mhm.
Yeah. They're
They're not
thneeds.
leaves, but the
The
trees
fluff.
are these puffy,
Yeah.
colorful growths coming out of them. And so his factory, they weave them into thneeds, which are, I don't even know what they are. They're kind of like sweaters. He says you can use them as a sweater or bicycle seat, bicycle covers, or all sorts of different things. But it's a thing no one needs.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that always stuck with me, the thneed. So yeah, just I mean,
Wow.
we're just marketed constantly with needs.
Can I just say the one that I almost bought a couple of times in the past few days, and I literally have to be like, "No," like, I feel like, "What are you doing?" Is this Have you guys seen the, like, red light therapy face, um we're probably getting
Wand?
fed different ads, but yeah, there's, like, a
The wand.
wand
Yeah, I
where
saw
you,
that
like
today.
it's like a glowing red thing, and it makes your skin perfect, of course.
Wow.
Um, maybe it does. I don't know. If you wanna sponsor us, we'll give it a try.
Please.
But, I think that's the ultimate, like, I mean, I personally, my skin, I feel pretty okay about my skin. I have my skin, and it's not even that's not even a pain point for me. Luckily, I have plenty of other pain points, but it's just like I really ha feel like I need this wand, and I it's just this funny, like, I can watch myself having the thoughts and be like, "Wait, it's totally a
Yeah.
need."
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
just $39 or whatever. Yeah,
No, it's like 150, the one that I saw,
oh,
and
no,
I thought
really?
about
Well,
it.
well,
After
Can
getting
you
the
guys say your needs? Now I'm embarrassed.
Thneed, I've bought
yeah,
lots of Thneeds in the past. Um, I can't think of
yeah,
any off the top of my head, but
Amazon's
I bought you definitely used to buy Thneeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
and
now I'm dealing with that. Like if I could talk to my younger self, I one thing I would say was think before you buy stuff because when you are older, you will want to purge it and it will
yes,
drive you crazy. You'll have
Mhm.
a garage full of crap that you can't get rid of. And
big yes.
you'll spend weekends going through the junk in your garage trying, giving some to Goodwill and posting some on Nextdoor
Mhm.
yeah, just try not to accumulate a whole bunch of stuff.
Amen. I think that, sort of like the human life cycle, in these days and times is you spend a certain, the first part of your life, building up, achieving, getting your degrees and your jobs and getting all the stuff and getting all set up. And then at some point it tips very quickly into, oh, golly, and you start kinda undoing all those
Yeah,
things and undoing the
yeah.
yeah, and I'm certainly on the other side of the accumulation part, and, um,
Just went through our grandparents' house.
just went my parents' house, and they've been married 71, 72 years, and they had quite a few things, and, a lot of that stuff is like, we were had limited time to do it there
Mm,
on the premises. So a lot of that stuff is in my barn loft right now. And um, I'm starting to think about, wow, you talk about weekends going through things. It's so true. And sometimes I'm very aware of life being my daily life, actions, tasks being about placing things, moving things, uh, trying to get rid of things. And like you say, if I could speak to my younger self about, just chill on bringing stuff into the house. And I remember, earlier, like 90s, early 2000s, when, in the heyday of these big stores that uh that stock all this stuff, and they have all kind of constant sales and everything. And I remember in the days when that was kind of an entertainment to go
mhm,
and get stuff and take advantage of the sales and have fun and all that kind of thing. And now I feel like I'm paying the price for that. Paying the price for getting cheap things. And it's
mm.
it's the price of your time, it's the price of your energy, it's the price of your mental health. Yeah,
Right.
it's yeah.
Yeah, all the clutter is, um, it's just, it's bad feng shui.
It is.
Are there any zero waste needs, Anne Marie, that you can think of that because the other side of this whole conversation is all of the objects and products that that we're marketed to that are sustainable and that we think we need to be more sustainable. I think that's a very funny irony of this side of things.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
can you think of any?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So when we started this, Mary Catherine was 16. She was just a teenager, and she would come to me regularly and say, "Oh, we need to buy this, to replace that. We
Mhm.
need to buy, metal straws, and we
Mhm.
need to buy silicone baking mats." And finally, I said to her, "We can't shop our way out of global warming. It's it's just a different it's green consumerism. Like
Mhm.
electric cars are good. I mean they're better, but we need infrastructure. We need public transit.
Yeah.
We
How about
can't
no cars?
yeah, how about no cars? We can't just green up our current way of living.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are lots. I mean, I get emails all the time from companies, wanting to work with me.
Oh, I bet you do.
Oh, yeah, every day. And some of the stuff is crazy. One company had a subscription zero waste box.
Oh, what?
Yeah, and I thought, well, what's in this box? So I think every month you would get a box full of, yeah, yeah, and
Yeah, that's the
yeah, so
need
many,
for sure.
just because we're such a consumer culture.
Mhm.
We can't seem to think beyond buy, buy, buy. Well, I mean, we're just constantly bombarded with that message.
Mhm.
So there's so much greenwashing, just
Well,
so much greenwashing.
Yeah.
I think that's what the whole conversation, this conversation, and the bigger conversation is. When we can pay attention to the thought processes that we've evolved over these decades, and when we become conscious of that, we can unravel them. We can back off of it and actually catch ourselves, like you with this ultra red skin wand, Emma, and say,
The
"Oh,
light therapy. I don't
light
even know what
therapy."
that means, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"I need it."
I know. Like, "Oh, I'm feeling this impulse." And, and just stop a minute, recognize it, be able to unravel that, and possibly make a different decision. Not necessarily, but give yourself a chance to make a different decision. Oh, I'm listening to that book, Emma, that it's the book club choice in our online community, the Almanac, and it's called The Good Ancestor. You would like this book, Anne Marie.
Oh,
And he's talking about the advent of the buy now button. Everywhere, you see a thing online and there's the button right now, buy now. So that just short circuits any thought process, any
Mm.
any kind of
mm.
reflection about it, or yeah, it's right there. So anyway,
Well,
watch out for
Amazon
buy now.
patented the one click.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, buy now. Yeah, there's even one, there's put in your cart, and that gives you a chance to think about it for a
Add to
couple of
cart.
days.
Mhm.
Add to cart. And then there's buy now. Don't even add to your cart. Just press
Just
this
buy
button and
now. Yeah.
your credit card's charged and it's on the way. And don't think you're going to be able to cancel that, because 5 minutes later they're going to tell you it's already on the way.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
I
Um,
think if if I want to buy something, if I think so, there was something recently, I can't think of what it was, and I thought, oh, I'd kind of like to get that. But if I just tell myself, okay, I can't buy it for a week or a month,
Mhm.
by the time the week has passed, I can't remember
I know, I
what
do
it
that
was that I
too.
thought I wanted.
That's the best. That's the best test. Sometimes for me, it's even 24 or 48 hours. I don't even have to say a whole week. I'm like, if I'm remembering in 48 hours and I still want it, and usually it's totally gone.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so interesting. Do you think that there is any I mean, the thing about this conversation is that it kind of gets depressing um because it kind of feels like there's no way out of this, the capitalist system, because it's what we are in, and if we opt out, then then we
Or
have to opt
hermits.
out of everything. So, is there any sort of positive do you have any thoughts about is there any hope for conscious consumerism? I'm saying that with air quotes, or buying greener, or sort of participating in the system, but also having it evolve to be better? Or is it just like we just need to totally think of a new way of doing things?
Hmm.
Just casual question.
Small question.
Well, I think the system can evolve, and we have to operate within the system that we
Yeah.
find ourselves in. So, well, apparently, I'm a hypocrite because I live indoors with heating, and
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah, you can't be perfect. It's impossible. So, but no, I think the system can evolve. Well, it has to evolve.
Where do you
So,
find
Right.
hope? What do you find hopeful?
Yeah.
Zooming out, what do you see happening that's like, oh, this is good. This is the right direction.
well, there are, I don't know, I guess there are more of us, I think, who are concerned than there are fossil fuel CEOs.
That's
So,
a fun way to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people
Yeah.
who care and who are working on this. So
Mhm.
that gives me hope. And then just being active gives me hope. If I did nothing, then I would probably be pretty anxious and depressed.
Yes.
But just by taking action and then
Mhm.
seeing all of the other people taking action, so that gives me hope. I remember before Greta Thunberg came on the scene, I kept saying to friends and family, like, why aren't people out in the street? Why isn't everyone, freaking out?
Mhm.
And then people did start taking to the street. So
I
Yeah.
agree with you that doing something active really does make you
Yeah.
feel better, and thinking about, getting in a tailspin about whether or not it's actually doing anything is so counterproductive because um, I think that if it is affecting you and the people around you, then it is doing something to whatever scale it is. Even if it's as simple as nourishing yourself better or nourishing your
Mhm.
family or supporting, helping farmers do their thing or whatever it is. Ever since we started this project, my climate anxiety has abated because I'm actively working every day on spreading these ideas and having these conversations. And no, am I directly contributing to lowering the CO2 in the atmosphere? Probably not, but the act of engaging with it every day, um, it's just a different energy. So,
I'll say where I find hope is, we tend to talk about technology as like that's such a big part of our woes, and it is. But I think we don't think about the fact that technology is technology and it's always looking forward. And I think there are solutions that are underway now that maybe we don't even know about yet. And that's sort of me using my imagination. But technology had all along the way, all along human evolution, there have been problems and humans have solved it. Problems and humans have solved it. Now,
mhm.
whether or not we've gone too far this time, that remains to be seen. But there still is hope um, that there are great minds out there um, working against bigger forces to bring about change. So, as well as all of us doing what we can on our own level. So anyway, I do think there's hope. I feel like I want to hear before we start wrapping up, and maybe you've already addressed this, Emery, but since you're zero waste chef and you have some really fantastic recipes on your website, you have a whole recipe index, you're constantly posting all these great things, convenient, easy, nutritious, simple, all this great stuff. I love that galette you did the other day in the little
Cast iron pan.
higher stand pan. And that was such a coincidence because we've been talking about things to do with your cast iron pans in the almanac, and people have been sending in
Yeah.
their ideas. And oh, there it is, the galette, and it's
Mhm.
almost nothing I love more than an apple galette. So that was cool. But I'd like to hear you talk more about how zero waste and better health go hand in hand.
Oh, so okay, I tell people results may vary, but I'm much healthier now than I was before because I stopped buying food in shiny packages, which is all the highly processed stuff. Not that I ate a ton of it, but now I don't eat any of it. So about 2 weeks into this, I realized, oh, I'm eating a lot more fruit and vegetables.
Mhm.
So my health improved.
Yeah.
Although
So
It's cool how fruits and vegetables come in their own packaging.
they
I
do.
love that.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and
and
then I started fermenting.
Mhm.
I had made yogurt for a long time since Mary Catherine was a baby, um, but I didn't realize I was fermenting milk. I just knew, oh, if I heat this milk up and then let it cool a bit and add yogurt from the previous batch, I get more yogurt.
Mhm. So, what's a fun do you have any funny stories about maybe trying not to engage with plastic and then people not getting it and then
yeah,
you
sometimes
know
when
what we're
you're
talking about?
out in the world trying to do your thing, it
And
can
you try to
create some.
refuse and it's
Yeah.
confusing and maybe
Just wonder
funny
if you
or
have
maybe not.
any stories on that score?
Well, once I was in the paper, the Mercury, San Jose Mercury, which is it's a big paper,
Mhm.
and so a reporter and her photographer came over and they spent a lot of time with me. And I didn't know when the story was going to come out. And a friend of mine texted me. She said, "Oh, great, right up in the Mercury this morning." And sent me the link. And I read it and I thought, oh, yeah, it's a good article. And then later in the day, I thought, oh, I wonder if it's in the print edition. So I went to the store and I wandered around and I saw it, and I was on the front page above the fold. Yeah, like on the left, like the main story. And I
Wow.
just was like in a panic. And I had the same shirt on as I did in the picture.
Ah.
And I remember just, like in shock. And I grabbed the paper and I went to the cashier, and there was a woman in front of me, but there was space on the conveyor belt. So I put the paper down, and she turned to see, people look, oh, what are they buying? And she saw the paper, and she said, oh, that woman. And I just went, ooh. She said, she's so extreme. And she said, I read the whole article, and I commend her for what she's doing, but she's so extreme. And I was already in shock from being on the front page, and I just, stood there looking at her, and she looked at me and she said, oh, is that you?
Oh.
So that's probably the funniest story I have about people not getting it, thinking I'm a
That's
That's a
weirdo.
good one. That's a good one. But,
Mhm.
if you're gonna act outside of the system at all, you have to be a weirdo.
But
Yeah,
I mean, if we
yeah,
were normal.
that's
true.
true. But how am I front page news? Really, how did we get to this point? I eat a lot of vegetables. I don't buy stuff I don't need, and I ride my bike a lot.
Yeah,
And I'm
Wow, wow.
extreme. I'm extreme.
What a
yeah.
statement. That's just like the biggest glaring irony. That's great. What a great story. I love that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I should thank that woman because I tell that story all the time now.
Yeah.
But I had
The
like the same
weirdness.
shirt as in the picture, and
That's so funny.
Oh, that's so funny.
I thought you were gonna say, that the newspaper was in a plastic bag.
no, no, yeah, long ago I used to get the paper. This was before I went plastic free. This was
Mhm.
so. I'm from Canada. We moved to the States in '98. So when we moved here, I started to get the paper, and that's the same way in Canada, I think. Although I did get the Globe Mail, and it wasn't in a plastic thing. Anyway, I canceled it, and I said, like, yeah, because of the plastic. I remember a friend
Yeah.
thought I was nuts,
Yeah.
but it
It's
really
funny how
bothered me.
that's less of an issue
Yeah.
now because I feel like not many people get the paper delivered anymore,
Oh,
so
oh, well, yeah, yeah, yeah. That was back in the late '90s.
but it is baffling. Yeah, that was a lot of plastic.
Yeah, it was every day, and I thought, I'm canceling.
Yeah.
It's too much plastic. I can't stand
Yeah.
it.
Well, uh, same thing. And I don't even remember where I was living at the time. It's been a while, but asked, can you please not do it in plastic? And I was refused because it gets wet. And then people
Right.
complain that their paper's wet, and they demand another one or a discount or whatever. So then again, you run into the whole thing. The whole thing is
Oh, yeah,
set
yeah.
up.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
So, you know, um, also you can say, "Oh, well, those are great dog poop bags." And so they're they're, you know, picking up the dog mess with these newspaper bags and throwing them in the trash can. So now we have mountains and mountains of dog poop that can't biodegrade because it's in these plastic
Right.
newspaper bags. It's just, oh my gosh. And it's seen as your civic duty to pick it up in plastic and throw it in the landfill. Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the alternative is not so great either, but man, it seems like we could come up with something besides that. Anyway, that was my
Right,
little
right,
tangent.
because it's organic matter going to
Yeah.
landfill, and so it emits
In a
methane
plastic bag. So
in
it's there
plastic
for
bag.
hundreds of years.
Right,
Oh,
right,
man.
right. Oh, yeah. You can compost dog poop, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a separate compost. Has to be a
Yeah.
separate, but it can be done. Not cat poop, but dog. So.
Yeah. But it has to be done thoughtfully, intentionally, correctly. You have
Oh,
to have
yeah,
space
yeah,
and
yeah. It
all
has to
those
be
things.
done. Oh, yeah,
all
yeah,
those
yeah.
things people would say why they can't do it,
Right,
and
right, right,
so
right, right. No,
so
yeah, not many people are going to do it, but it is possible.
yeah,
So,
but
Anne Marie, do
yeah.
you what does slow living mean to you?
Oh, well, um, hmm, just living intentionally,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Do you feel like you do slow living?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, I think. Yeah, I first read about, oh, now I can't think of his name, the guy who started the slow food movement.
Yeah.
Um, right, I read about that, must have been like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long
Um,
time.
I mean, it probably started before that, but that's when I read about it. So, yeah, it just really appealed to me. So,
It
yeah,
started, I can't remember what year, but it started with a bunch of people in Italy, in Rome.
yep,
Um, they were, protesting a McDonald's going in the main square or something,
yep.
and, yeah, and he coined the phrase. It's still alive and well,
Oh
writing,
yeah, I
yeah.
gave a talk last year for our local slow food chapter.
Oh, fun.
Oh,
So,
cool. Okay.
yeah.
So, so what does the good dirt mean to you, other than the name of this podcast? What does that
Um,
phrase mean to you?
well, well, literally, I think of soil, and it all. If I mean, everything comes from the soil, so it's essential that we stop abusing it and take care of it.
Yeah,
So it
and
Yeah.
provides us with everything we need. We have everything we need.
Oh, I
and
love it. We totally do.
We
and
do.
the work you do with as zero waste chef, um, teaching people how, to cook without the things that are messing up the soil, and teaching people about food waste and how to prevent it. That is a tremendous factor in in taking care of our soil, because actually food, you know, food, not food, well, food waste, food that we're not using is a very valuable resource if it can be put back, r-
Mhm.
It
rather than
is.
a toxic landfill item that
Right.
causes methane gas. You have a choice, two choices there. You can eat it, or three. You can eat it. You can throw it in a landfill, and it creates methane gas and contributes to climate change, or you can put it back and have it enrich our soil, becoming good dirt.
Right.
So
Right.
the work that you do is a wonderful contribution to all those ideas. Plus, it's just great stuff. Just great food, great recipes, great ideas, great hints, and your content just is incredible. So thank you for what you do. We really appreciate it, and I love it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Is there anything else that you want listeners to understand about the work that you do?
Um, well, I guess that perfection is not possible. So just let go of that.
Mhm.
If you want to reduce your waste, just start with the easy stuff. Don't focus on the stuff you can't do.
Yeah. And what, in your opinion, is the easy stuff, or in your experience, is the easiest stuff?
Well, so for us, it was eating more vegetables
Yeah.
and fruit. I think I have my standard talk that I give when I go around, and actually it's mostly been on Zoom lately, but
Mhm.
I give my standard talk, and really the short version is eat more whole foods,
Yeah.
eat more fruits and vegetables. I mean, if you do that, you're going to address a lot of problems, and
Yeah.
the food is delicious. So
And my trick is at the grocery store, if you are going to the grocery store, if you're not lucky enough to have a farmer's market, um, you don't have to use the little baggies for your veggies. You can just put them in your cart. Or you can
that's
also bring your own bags, but if you're someone like me who always forgets them, you just don't need to use a bag.
right.
The cashier doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. You don't need to put, I don't know, small pumpkins in a plastic bag.
No, yeah.
Uh, along those lines, and I think you use this quote on your website as well, the quote from Michael Pollan, "If
Mm.
it's if it's a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't."
Yeah.
I love that. It covers a lot of territory right
Oh, yeah.
there.
Yeah, and his other maxim for eating, eat food, not too much, mostly plants.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You
it's
know,
really
that's
good.
my daughter and I were just talking about that on the weekend. There are all these fad diets. My kids love to send me Instagram reels of like these crazy diets, and
Mhm.
a lot of people have orthorexia. They're just,
Yeah.
yeah, really have these really super strict diets. Like the ones they keep sending me are lately carnivore diets where
Mhm.
you only eat meat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and and so I said, you don't, to my daughter, you don't need a diet. Just follow Michael Pollan's advice
Yeah.
and
Um,
don't be so neurotic about it.
just a note, orthorexia, that's that disorder where you're like uber healthy. You're so uber healthy it almost becomes like an OCD thing, right?
Yeah, 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 where
Yeah.
you're really focused on a certain diet and you you can't veer from it. Um,
Yeah, yeah, you're obsessed with it.
yeah, obsessed with it. Yeah, yeah.
Um, I almost forgot, and this ties in, and one more question before we go. Um, I'd love to hear you talk about lard because lard for decades has been like the bad boy of all foods, horrible thing, you know, now associated with a very bad insult. Um, so talk about lard is like this wonderful food, which it is, if you would.
Oh, lard's delicious. I haven't rendered lard in a while. My niece is has a homestead now in Maine, and she posted on Facebook the other day a batch of lard that she had rendered from their pigs. So that was looked really yummy, but lard's delicious, makes the best pastry. My mom
Oh,
makes
yeah.
amazing pastry because she puts lard in it.
Yes.
And yeah, if you, I mean, you want it from pasture
Uh-oh.
raised pigs. It makes fantastic pastry, and you just need a little bit. I haven't made these for a long time. Baked beans.
Ooh.
The recipe I used to make, it's an Alton Brown recipe, and
Mhm.
it calls for, I don't know, a ham hock or something, but I found they're delicious just with some lard. As long as you have lard, yeah, you just need a little bit, and it adds so much flavor.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna try that. Making baked beans. That's a great, I I don't know, correct me because 'cause you've probably made them. I have not, but I think that would be a great swap, a fun swap to do because baked beans in a can are not the most healthy thing you can eat. A lot of times it's a ton of sugar
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff that's in it,
Hmm.
but, baked baked beans homemade and with lard sounds like it would be amazing.
Oh, they're amazing. I use my Dutch oven, my big Dutch oven, and oh, I have to make some now. Yeah.
I'm gonna ha can you do you have a recipe on your blog, or can you
No,
do
I don't. It's an Alton Brown recipe I use. If you
okay.
Google Alton Brown baked beans, and it's called something like the once and best baked beans, or I forget. Anyway,
The once and future
yeah,
beans.
maybe that's it.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna do
Oh, they're
this.
so good. I haven't made them in a long time. I have to make some.
So bottom line is, listeners, you don't have to be afraid of lard. It's a great and useful food, and you can feel okay about the climate change aspect of it because you can source animals that are raised responsibly so that if you choose to use lard for its many benefits, you can rest assured that you are not harming the climate.
Also, in general, it is a byproduct.
It is.
So
It is.
even if it's not like from the sourciest source, it's still using something that would otherwise be not used.
Good
So
point.
I used to get free pork fat at the butcher. They would just
yeah,
give me pounds and pounds of it for
yeah,
free because they just throw it out.
yeah.
Oh,
And it makes, I mean, if I were to buy lard, I would make quite a bit of it. It would be really expensive.
well,
I'm
i-
just
it's such a
joking.
good point. It's such a good point. It's yeah, and I wanted you to talk about that because I did notice that that you talk about lard and that how you like to use it, and so and I think a lot of people are just almost kind of afraid of it actually. Or
Well, yeah, because for years we were told a low-fat diet
yeah,
Mhm.
was the best, and fat's really bad for you, and you should never eat fat, and it's not true.
yeah,
The best potato chips are, you probably don't have them on the West Coast, but there's this brand here called Utz potato chips. They're out of Baltimore and they make potato chips in
yeah.
lard and it's the best potato chips ever.
Grandma Utz. It's Grandma
Wow.
Utz.
Grandma Utz
Yeah, maybe they'll sponsor us.
will send you some. They're so good.
I bet.
Yeah, they're really,
Ooh,
really good. Um,
Well,
okay.
I'm getting hungry now.
I know. Well, I thank you so much for chatting with us today. We have a pretty awesome interview. I can't wait
Yeah.
to
Is there
Oh, thank you.
anything else you can think of that you wanted to talk about or you'd like to talk about that you didn't mention? Now's your chance.
Maybe I think we already touched upon this, but I think people shouldn't feel guilty for the system that we live in.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think people they feel so guilty if they, do get takeout
Oh,
or
yeah. Oh,
you have to survive. You have to
we have
live,
to
and
live.
it can. We're swimming upstream a lot of the time, so
Yeah, and guilt is not a
Yeah.
helpful feeling. Like, you can't do anything with that. I
right.
mean, there's certain things where you probably should feel guilt. Some people deserve to feel guilt. But in general, I think most of us who are trying to do the right thing have a lot of misplaced guilt,
Mhm.
and, it's just not productive, so
Right.
And to say it one more time, once you start doing these things and making these decisions, the decisions that you won't feel guilty about come easier and easier. They come more naturally. They come from a place of just real passion and desire instead of just trying to check off the be good box.
Mhm.
So, okay.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Anne Marie. We'll be in touch when this comes out, couple
Okay.
Yeah,
months.
Okay. Well, thank you, Emma and Mary. It was great
Yeah,
to chat
and I'm
with
gonna
you.
go make my baked beans.
and
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna look up that recipe too. Have a maybe.
thank
Yeah.
and thank you so much for your time today. I know you're so busy. We really appreciate it and just really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, I did too. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.